This is the TI-36X Pro calculator, and we're going to use this to find the mean and standard deviation of a data set. So I start with my calculator off, and the first thing I need to do is turn it on. Now when I turn it on, it just says DEG up in the top. I'm not too worried about that. I need to enter a data set. So the first thing I'm going to do is come over to this button, Data, and hit that. Now you'll notice I happen to already have numbers in that data set, and instead of deleting each one at a time, if I come back and hit Data again, I now have the option to clear multiple lists. Since there was only numbers in list 1 and it was only list 1 I want to work with, I can go ahead and just hit Enter, and I'm back to list 1, which is now cleared. I'm going to enter 4 numbers. So as I do that, I'm going to enter the first number, which is 7, hit Enter, and you'll notice there's a 7 above, and list 1 is ready for a second number. So I proceed through. We'll do that for one more to show you. I hit my second number of 10, hit Enter, I see the 10, I'm ready for the third number. And then we'll just hit the next 2 numbers in a row. Let's do 15, Enter, and 18, Enter. So I've stored 4 numbers, we're waiting for a 5th, but I'm not going to use a 5th. So now I'm ready to find the statistical information I want. Above the data button in blue, it says Stat, Reg, Distribution, Dist. So because that's in blue, I need to hit the blue button, which is second, and hit Data. When I do that, I've got a couple different options. I want to stay on the top left being highlighted instead of arrowing over to distribution. And I'm going to arrow down to 2, which is one variable statistics, and go ahead and hit Enter since that's what I want. All of my data is stored in list 1, otherwise I could have arrowed over if I had data in other lists. All of those numbers are going to show up just once, so I can arrow down again to hit Calc. And at this point, I hit Enter. Maybe you could hit arrow down again. N equals 4 is the first line, which lets me know I had 4 numbers in my list. The number 2, I don't need to arrow down to it, but this way it's highlighted and you know what I'm talking about. X bar is the sample mean of 12.5, and since the population mean is found the same way, it's also 12.5. As I arrow down, I see S sub X, a subscript of X, 4.9328, etc. This is the sample standard deviation, and remember that's assuming that my 4 numbers were from a sample and not a population. Now if I want the sample variance, the way I go ahead and do it is leave the cursor, if you want to call it that, on the 3. I hit Enter, and it ends up putting S1, my 5th number, is going to be the sample standard deviation. It's going to go into my list, but that's okay because I'll resolve that in a minute. I come back to my keypad, and over here to the left, is X squared, because the standard deviation squared is the variance. So you can see I'm about to square the standard deviation. I hit Enter, and even though it showed up in my list, I got the 24.333, etc. number, which is the sample variance. Now, what if I need to use that list again? That number is now part of my list, and I don't want that. So after I've recorded any information I need, I'm going to come up to the 24 and delete that entry, so I'm back to my original 4 numbers. Now, in the case that those numbers you were working with represented a population, and you wanted the population standard deviation, I'd go back to second, hit the data button, and instead of stopping arrowing down at the 3, notice that down arrow after the 3. Whoops, sorry, I forgot I wanted 1 variable. And then I'm going to arrow down to calculate. Sorry, after this 3, when I see the down arrow, I see sigma sub x, the Greek lowercase letter for S with a subscript of x, which stands for the population standard deviation. So here, my population standard deviation, always smaller than a sample standard deviation, is 4.272, etc. I can record that and go through the same process to get the population variance. That I'm going to go ahead and while my cursor is on that point, hit Enter so that that number is now going to be put into my list. I'm going to hit X squared. So I'm squaring the population standard deviation, hit enter to actually finish squaring it, and popping into my list is 18.25, which is actually a terminating number, that my population variance is sigma squared is 18.25.